Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. It's just 2 minutes past the hour of 4 p.m. East African time, and it's a pleasure to be back. I thought there's some really hot news that we ought to discuss, and that's what brings us back to the stream on this early evening of the day, because it doesn't come very often that Manchester United do come to their own promises. But yeah, Manchester United have made a bid for Benjamin Sesko, so we're going to be talking about that and more from the transfer news, as well as Thomas Partey did appear before the Westminster Magistrates Court, and we'll be speaking about that as well. So do join me for this broadcast, and let's get it going. Let's see what there is for us to discuss in the wake of that news. But I thought it's a very interesting news, especially on the side of Manchester United, that we cannot ignore, that we cannot, just take for granted. So because of its significance in the pursuit of the 22-year-old Slovenian striker in Benjamin Sesko. So yeah, for those of you that were part of our morning broadcast, thank you so much. Eweku, Sam, thank you so much. Spirit of Liverpool fans, LFC, Pedri, and all the others at Tamant House. It was a pleasure. It was really Obote Emi. Thank you so much for being part of that morning broadcast. I do not take your time for granted. So thank you so much. Anyways, it's broken this afternoon. Like I've said, that Manchester United have made a formal bid for Benjamin Sesko to try and sort of out-rival Newcastle for the 22-year-old Slovenian international's signature. And this is practically what perhaps perhaps Benjamin Sesko has been hoping for or waiting for. We do not know for sure, but we're going to find out in just a bit in regards to that bid. But that news are being broken by the usual suspect in none other than David Ornstein, who said Manchester United make offer to RB Leipzig for Benjamin Sesko, proposal worth 75 million euros plus 10 million euros in add-ons, which reflects their Manchester United's valuation of the 22-year-old, and they believe the striker favors Old Trafford. No reply yet from RB Leipzig, and then he also adds that Newcastle also working to close the deal. So that's the latest from that angle. For those of you that are just joining us, welcome back to the Footballtribe UG channel. This early evening, it's 5 minutes past the hour of 4 p.m. here in Kampala, Uganda, where I do come to you live from. And so kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here, and help me to my way to 2,000 subscribers. That's the mission at the moment. So do me that absolute honor and favor, and subscribe to the channel, but also more importantly, like the broadcast. So like I said, in the morning we spoke about this deal, and Newcastle yesterday placed in their bid worth a total of 90 million euros, with 80 million euros as a guaranteed fees plus 10 million euros in add-ons, which means Newcastle's offer for Benjamin Sesko remains 5 million euros higher than what Manchester United have put on table. However, the 75 million euros in guaranteed fees still does meet the valuation of RB Leipzig for the striker. Now, the reason I want to believe that Newcastle had, upped that they did up their offer for the player is, one, they do not want to include a future sell-on clause in this deal whatsoever, but also they are looking to wrap the deal up as fast as possible, very well knowing that Manchester United are in contention to try and sign the same player. And in the morning when we were speaking about that deal, because I think I had a question from Obote Emi or Eweku Sam, one of the two, did ask particularly about Manchester United's pursuit for Benjamin Sesko. I did reveal to him they had promised RB Leipzig that they would be making very soon their formal bid to sign the player, but that bid had yet to come. But it has come as of this Monday afternoon. It did go in to RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig are yet to say yes or no to the offer. We are waiting for that communication. Now, The player remains undecided on over Newcastle or Tottenham Hotspurs, but Manchester United are hopeful that he does favour a move to Old Trafford as opposed to going to St James's Park. Newcastle yesterday set a 48-hour ultimatum for the Slovenian striker to make his decision on where he wants to play his football next season, fearing that they do not want to wait until the end of the week just because the player is dragging his feet to make his final decision. So he has to choose between today or tomorrow to decide that it will either be Newcastle or it will be Manchester United. Whatever the decision is, and I've always said this, that the bidding war that was said to happen between Newcastle and Manchester United for Benjamin Sesko was only going to work in RB Leipzig's favor, and you can see already we do have an 80 million proposal from Manchester United, and then we have a 90 million euro proposal from Newcastle. Now, it's the easy choice for RB Leipzig is to take Newcastle's proposal because it has significantly more money than you compare that to Manchester United. However, what we do not know for sure is the terms and conditions are, well engraved within those proposals. I do submit and think, out of speculation, that Newcastle may not want to include a future sell-on clause in any deal whatsoever that takes Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig in Germany to Newcastle. However, with Manchester United meeting the exact demands of Spirit of LFC fan says, you know everyone about life. I know everyone about life. I don't gather what you mean exactly. But thanks for your comment, Spirit of Liverpool fans FC. So what I do gather is that Man United are meeting the valuation of the player, and while it's easier said than done, we do not know if in them meeting the valuation of the player that was quoted to them by RB Leipzig and the 10 million euro offer in expected add-ons, and it could boil down to how easily, for example, the add-ons could be achieved, but also the payment structure. For example, who is willing to pay more money upfront? Manchester United could be willing to, let's say, pay maybe 35 million euros upfront, while Newcastle are proposing to pay 30 upfront. It could be that Newcastle are willing to pay 40 million euros upfront, while Manchester United want to pay 35. So it will boil down to also the nitty-gritties of that. But the key ingredient in this particular case is going to be the player deciding on where he wants to play. If he says it's Manchester United, then perhaps RB Leipzig press Manchester United to say you're going to have to increase on your offer to make it 90 million euros. That means the add-ons could rise to 15 million euros, or the guaranteed fees are the ones that rise from 75 to perhaps 80, or simply RB Leipzig to say you're going to have to match Newcastle's offer for the same player because that's what we were willing to take. That is our acceptable offer. While the player has chosen you, it is then up to Man United to meet that valuation because, again, the player is not going to force RB Leipzig's hand just because there's that proposal from Manchester United. But as of things stand, they are yet to bet that yes or no for their proposal. We're going to have to wait for that in the coming hours to find out what the situation really is. Now, this further still on the deal in itself. This is according to Sky Germany or to Florian Breitenberg, who works with Sky German, says Benjamin Sesko and his camp have reached full verbal agreement with both Manchester United and Newcastle over a long-term contract. Final details were settled yesterday, so that's very significant. It now mainly depends on which club also reaches an agreement with RB Leipzig. Manchester United are offering 85 million euros and Newcastle offering 90 million euros. Decisive hours ahead. So you can see according to these multiple reports, and this is something that I think we reported about a day or so ago, according to Sacha Tavoride, that Newcastle were moving ahead in their pursuit ahead of Manchester United in their pursuit for Benjamin Sesko. And Florian Breitenberg comes back to allude to what we did inform to you about this goodbye. While initial reports did suggest that he had favored a move to Manchester United over Newcastle, Newcastle had improved their offer on personal terms to try and win over the player. And while reports continue to suggest that he did favor a move to Manchester United. They also did reaffirm that he had neither dropped, he had neither said, he had not said entirely no to Newcastle, meaning that window was still well wide open, and that Newcastle just needed perhaps to sweeten their offer a little more, to add a little more candy, perhaps the honey, to the juice, to help them get over the line. Now, as of present day, according to Sky Germany or according to Florian Breitenbach, he says both clubs in Manchester United and Newcastle have already agreed to personal terms in principle for Benjamin Sesko. Now, once you agree to personal terms, that speaks to your inclination or your positivity towards a move on any of these particular sites. Now, at this point, he could easily communicate to Newcastle and say, "I'm sorry, guys. I know we had reached to an agreement on a verbal, on verbal terms, or we had reached on terms verbally, but I'm going to go to Manchester United. This is where it all ends between you and I." Or he could tell the same to Manchester United, or they could learn about it in the press, just like we also do, that he's chosen this side over the other. So, but at the moment, because RB Leipzig are yet to accept that offer from Newcastle, and they are yet to, the second bid from Newcastle. Remember, Newcastle had a first bid rejected. It was worth 75 million euros plus 5 million euros in expected add-ons, giving it a total of 80 million euros. They went in with the second bid with 80 million euros as guaranteed fees plus 10 million euros in expected add-ons. That offer, they are yet to receive a response from RB Leipzig on that offer. Same applies for Manchester United's offer this afternoon. So that's the situation when it comes to the pursuit of Benjamin Sesko between Newcastle and between Newcastle and Manchester United. They are trying to pursue the player who scored 15 goals, who scored 13 goals and provided 5 assists in the German Bundesliga last season. I think he had a personal tally of about 21 goals across all competitions, something like that. So really, really interesting. Anyways, I'm moving away from the news regarding Florian Wirtz, and let's move on to former Arsenal midfielder Thomas Partey. The 32-year-old Ghanaian international did feature today, or did appear before the Westminster Magistrates Court to answer to 5 counts of rape and 1 count of attempted sexual assault by a third woman. And now, this is according to BBC Sport, who say Thomas Partey has been granted a conditional bail after being charged with 5 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault. The 32-year-old appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court on Tuesday, charged with 5 counts of rape and against 2 women and a charge of sexual assault against a third woman. The alleged offenses, like we did reveal to you, did take place between 2021 and 2022. That's approximately less than a year, because those reports do say between that time. So it was either approximately less than a year or just a year after he had arrived at Arsenal. Remember, he did join Arsenal in October 2020. So the alleged offences took place between 2021 and 2022 when he was playing for Arsenal. His bail conditions state that he cannot contact any of the 3 women and must notify police of any permanent changes of address or international travel. So international travel, I think this also has to do with his pending move to Villarreal. He's set to join Villarreal on a 2-year contract. The deal is not yet sealed, although the player is believed to have already completed his medical, because the reason as to why it's not complete is because he had to feature before court. But I think he's been okay with the investigation. He's been forthcoming, according to multiple reports, that he's been very open throughout the course of the investigation. He's not tried to sort of sabotage or try and stifle this thing. So that means that he will have no issue or quarrels whatsoever notifying of police. If he does move to Spain, he won't have any trouble notifying police that he is slated to go to Spain and join Villarreal and things of that nature, really. But Partey's lawyer, Jenny Wiltshire, previously said that he denies all charges against him, adding that he welcomed the opportunity to finally clear his name. Now, the word we got from court is that, of course, Thomas Partey didn't speak much, but he was read his charges, and of course, he denied all the charges. And I think he's expected to be back in court around September. So let's wait and see. But that's the situation regarding the Ghanaian midfielder and soon to be real player. So that's the situation regarding those cases. anyways, very, very interesting stuff. Then, according to Ben Jacobs, Nicholas Jackson is another name on Newcastle's list of attacking options, and Chelsea are open to a sale. There have been some initial club-to-club talks already. Brentford is Johan Wissa is another target, with the player pushing to join Newcastle. Several options are discussed by Newcastle alongside their pursuit for Benjamin Sesko. Now, again, this is what I spoke about in the morning. That should Newcastle fail in their pursuit of Benjamin Sesko, they're going to find it a whole new mountain to climb when it comes to pursuing any other deal in the transfer window, because whichever that club is, and in this particular case, if it were to be Chelsea, they are going to enter those negotiations well knowing that Newcastle were already trying to offer 90 million euros for Benjamin Sesko. So if, let's say, they turn their attention to, they are trying to offer 60 million euros, then that club is going to say, look, you just made a bid of 90 million euros for the other player. Just give us our 75. That's what we want for this player. And given that Nicholas Jackson's numbers are not that bad in as far as the Premier League is concerned, because he scored 24 goals in about 65 Premier League appearances for the 2 seasons he's been with the club. So 24 goals scored, 10 assists provided. That's a 34 goal involvement in 65 games, which I believe is not a bad return on investment, although on-field disciplinary issues have been a thing for him. Of course, in that game against Newcastle, he made a foul that ended up with him with a red card, and Chelsea lost that game by 2-0. At the FIFA Club World Cup against Flamengo, he sustained another very, very stupid red card. That's so Chelsea, I think, got get beat by about a 1-0. JY 815 says Pedri to City. I really, anyway, anything can happen, but that's not what I see happening in very, very quickly, or soon, or even later. I mean, it's Barcelona, really. They have the capability of holding on to players, should they decide that it's what suits them. So, but that's the situation regarding Benjamin Sesko. It's the situation regarding Thomas Partey and everything in that line. So we are simply waiting. We are simply waiting for the white smoke to come out of RB Leipzig before these teams do advance. Who has qualified for the World Cup so far in Africa? Not that. Of course, the usual suspects that you would expect, but those qualifiers were still ongoing because also they were being played alongside the qualifiers for AFCON 2025, which is in due December in Morocco. So when it comes to that, who is winning AFCON? Morocco will have a huge stake on it, given they are experts at the 2022 FIFA World Cup, but also because they're going to be the host nation for that edition. So we'll have to wait and see. And see how it really goes. But I think Morocco will be favorites. In recent times, every nation that has gone on to host the competition have been a favorite, really, when it comes to that. So you look at teams like you look at Ivory Coast, who won the last edition. You look at Cameroon when they won that edition. Who won the 2019 edition? Was it Senegal or Senegal won in 2021? 2019. That fight, that 2019 AFCON, the one in Egypt. Yes, that was Algeria. Yes, it was Algeria that won the 2019 edition. And then we had the 2021 edition, which was won by Cameroon. No, yes, I think Cameroon were supposed to host the 2019 edition, but they failed and it went to Egypt. And then Algeria won it. Then Senegal won the 2021 edition. Then the 2023 edition that was played in 2024 was won by Ivory Coast. So those are the most recent winners. So, but I believe that in come 2025, Morocco will be favorites. In terms of the the FIFA World Cup qualifiers, are they still games to play? That will be. You remember the international break that I told you about in the morning? That once the season resumes, it is going to be. I will play 3 game weeks, and then effective the first week of September, we'll be going into the international break, and the FIFA World Cup qualifiers will continue. And particularly in Africa, teams like Cameroon will be playing against Eswatini, Uganda will be up against Mozambique, Algeria will play a game against Botswana. But in terms of those that have already qualified, I think Egypt is one of those because they do lead their table with 16 points. And yeah, but it's also far from sealed. It's also far from sealed because these games, remember, played home and away. And these groups have 6 teams. So they've only played 6 matches so far. And there's still a couple of rounds to go in deciding who will be playing at. There's still a couple of games still left to play in deciding who goes on next. But some of the favorites that we can talk about is, of course, Ivory Coast, teams like Algeria, teams like Egypt, Tunisia could have a huge say this time around. Ghana, if things do not take a horrible turn, teams like Gabon, that group of Gabon has up to 9 teams, by the way. The group of Gabon, it has the likes of Gabon, Tanzania, Cameroon, Senegal. So you do expect some teams up from there. But so far, those are some of the teams. You do expect Senegal to really compete, Cameroon to really compete and try and secure a place at the FIFA World Cup. Remember, it's going to be a competition of 48 teams, so that means Africa gets more places. I think up to as many as 9. So let's wait and see. But yeah, those are some of the favorites that we can mention. Also, Morocco. Remember, Morocco will be the hosts. Will be one of the host nations for the World Cup 2030. And because of that, I think they will be really, really fighting after to also qualify for World Cup, host AFCON 2025, qualify for FIFA World Cup, that's 2026, and then look forward to hosting it in 2030 alongside Portugal and Spain. Then Cape Verde, they do lead their group, that's Group D. They are in the same pot with Cameroon, and yes, with Cameroon. So, how is that possible that Cameroon does feature in 2 groups? Anyways, but yeah, those are some of the countries that I can sort of highlight that could have a chance. Zimbabwe are winning AFCON. I do not see that happening. I do not see that happening. At least not next year. But anyways, football is full of surprises. It's not my expectation, but let's wait and see. Kenya will win AFCON. Not this year's edition. Maybe they will try when they co-host the tournament with Uganda and Tanzania in 2027. Maybe then. That's if Ben McCarthy, if he's still the head coach of the Harambee Stars, he will have a say about that. But yeah, let's wait and see. Ivory Coast were not by the most impressive team. last time out in 2024 when they went on to win it. Remember, for them just to qualify out of the group stages, they qualified as one of the third best teams at the group stages, and they had already sacked their then manager and replaced him with his assistant, who went on to guide the team to the triumph of the AFCON. Hi, Mr. Leo. How do you remember me again? I do remember you, Mr. Leo. It's good to have you. Always a pleasure to see you around. So Kenya will win the next 10 AFCONs. You just wish well for them, and you want them to go and win, but there's no team that has ever defended it that many times. I think the last team to defend it for 3 consecutive times was Egypt. Hi, Pedri. Good to have you. I'm all right. Thanks for asking. Hope you are well too. The last team to defend the AFCON was Egypt, and they won it for 3 consecutive times in 2006, 2008, and 2010. I remember in 2010 they beat up against Ghana by a goal to nil, and I do remember it vividly because of Andre Ayew was inconsolable. Upon losing that final, and just thought I come by and say hi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Anyways, this was never meant to be a long edition. It was never meant to be a lengthy edition of the sports update this afternoon. This evening, early evening. I just wanted us to discuss that bid for Manchester United for Benjamin Sesko, and which we have done, and then Thomas Partey appearing in court and things like that, which we've already covered. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, JY, for your questions regarding to the FIFA Club World Cup, regarding AFCON. But yeah, let's wait and see how things will evolve. Either way, the player will end up at one club, and whichever club he does not choose will have to remain in the market and find another striker. For Man United, those options, the other options include Oli Watkins, include Nicholas Jackson. For Newcastle, Yohan Wissa, Nicholas Jackson, and Goncalo Ramos. Those are some of the names that have been highlighted. While for Man United, I think you can add to that list Moises Kean from Atlanta. From Fiorentina. We'll wait and see. Drink some water, mate. I always have some water with me, by the way. Then Mr. Leo says, how old are you? Old enough to be old enough. I'm above the official drinking age in the USA, which is what, 21. Then who will Manchester United get? Dubi Martinez or Donnarumma? It's still out of it's still a bit undecided, because while United, the only formal offer they made was a loan move for Emi Martinez, and of course Aston Villa rejected that. For Gianluigi Donnarumma, last I checked, he's willing to see out the remainder of his contract and go as a free agent. And once it comes to that, I expect there to be very, very many suitors, but also Chelsea are interested in his services. I think they may have moved on slightly away from Mike Maignan, that's the French goalkeeper at AC Milan, and things like that. So we just have to wait and see how it all goes down. World Cool Kid. Hi, how are you, sir? How are you doing? Good to have you in the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel since you just joined us. Your name does appear a little new to our community, but thank you so much for joining the community. Then Besiktas are currently in advanced talks with Wilfred Ndidi to try and sign him from Leicester City. They did reach an agreement they had a bid worth about 9.5 million euros accepted by Leicester City. But remember, some Premier League teams were also interested in Wilfred Ndidi. At one point during the course of the summer, he had been heavily linked with a potential move to Manchester United, but it has not come to that. Then I have that, a regular question seems never to go away: Messi or Ronaldo? I'll repeat what I've said always and before, is that choosing one over the other is like saying one is good and the other isn't, and which is not the case. Both living legends of the game. Messi at Inter Miami, he's still smashing it. Looking forward to the FIFA World Cup to be part of that Argentina team, which is who are the defending champions of the World Cup. Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo is still smashing it at Al Nassr. They are the reigning champions of Europe in as far as the UEFA Nations League is concerned, and things like that. So both great players. 85 million euros, 85 million for Sesko is much, don't you think? Of course, it's much money, because we are talking about a player that is yet to prove himself. He's still, developing. We're not talking about a player that guarantees 25, 30 goals a season. In any case, in terms of transfer fees, I forget agent fees and whatever else commissions he may have received, sign-on fees and everything like that with his agents. But Erling Haaland didn't even cost that. So you can imagine. And Haaland is busy smashing it in the Premier League. While Benjamin Sesko could easily also come and start smashing it in the Premier League, he's not even, I do not think he's hit half the numbers that Erling Haaland had hit at Borussia Dortmund. So yeah, when it comes to the price tag, definitely I think it's high. Under the ideal world, as a prospect, he should be going for about 65 million euros a week. And then with potential add-ons, maybe add-ons can go to as high as 15, if certain things are achieved. But we are talking about an unfinished product that is being traded here. The prototype has looked good. Whether the finished product will be much, much better remains to be seen. But so far, I certainly do not agree that should be the kind of valuation for such a player. There's a good number of players for whose valuation I do not agree with. I think it was this morning and yesterday we were talking about Tyler Dibling from Southampton because he is being pursued by Everton. And I was telling you guys that I do not think he is worth 50 million pounds because present day Southampton have declined a second bid from Everton worth about 40 million pounds and made a counter offer or proposal of 45 million pounds plus 5 million pounds in expected add-ons, which are easily achievable. And then they want a future sell-on clause of about 25%. Ridiculous. Anyways, Cristiano says, hi, good morning. Could you say hello to me? Hi, Cristiano. It's a pleasure to have you around. Thomas Partey to Villarreal. Yes, reports do suggest he has already completed his medicals and he's waiting to seal that move. However, he now has to, according to the bail conditions he's been granted in the UK at the Chief Magistrate's Court, is that he has to notify police of any international travels. I think Spain does. Well, Spain is, I think Spain does qualify for that. I was about to say Spain is an EU member state, and then I remembered, UK moved out of the European Union. You ask, do you think Rodrigo will change teams? It's looking more unlikely as the transfer window drags on, but for some of us that saw Arsenal sign Mesut Ozil on deadline day in 2013, I cannot say his move is entirely off, not particularly to Arsenal, but because Arsenal are one of those teams that for which he's been linked with a potential move to Arsenal, Liverpool, and Tottenham Hotspurs. But multiple reports from Spain do report that the player would want to stay at Real Madrid and fight for his place. So the decision will boil down to Florentino Perez on what he wants to do with the player, or what Xabi Alonso, or if Xabi Alonso can change his stance on Rodrigo Goes. So let's we just have to wait it out and see how that situation will develop. But he's a player that has been linked with a potential move to not just a Premier League, but to clubs like PSG. At one point, was being linked with the potential move to Bayern Munich, but we all know that Bayern Munich have since, acquired the services of Luis Diaz from Liverpool for about 75 million euros, which was a very, very incredible piece of business in as far as this transfer window is concerned. As we speak, Arsenal, I think, have the highest net transfer spend of about 192 million pounds plus. That's in comparison to what they've spent in bringing in players versus what they brought in, in terms of cash for selling players, which isn't much. So that's the situation at Arsenal. For Chelsea, they continue with their clearance sale. We know a couple of players that have already left, including George Petrovic. This one left, the goalkeeper left for AFC Bournemouth in a deal believed to be worth about 25 million pounds. Everton are pushing really, really hard to sign Keenan Dewsbury Hall from Chelsea. Leslie Ugochukwu is joining Burnley already, as well as Kanere Chukwuemeka is a primary target for Borussia Dortmund, where I spent last season on loan. So they would love to take him back on another season long loan with an option to buy. So let's wait and see on that one. Then also the other player that has been moved on is Armando Broja joining Burnley. So again, I do not agree with his valuation because of how he is injury prone, doesn't score plenty of goals and things like that. JY asks, so if Newcastle do not get rid of Isak, is he gonna play when the season starts? My expectation is that he will be playing unless he protests and chooses not to play. But it would be more detrimental to Newcastle to say we're going to freeze you out and not play you, because then what you simply take further down, or you almost plunge his valuation, because then teams, whoever is buying, will see. Anyways, guys, sorry, we are back, but it's only temporary because my power went off and went out the Wi-Fi. So I need to acquire a UPS and an uninterrupted power supply device to help me with such emergencies. Anyways, let me answer the final question before I sign out of here. Where do you come from? I come from Kampala, Uganda. Thanks for asking. But yeah, power is off, so allow me to close this one here and wish you a wonderful rest of the afternoon. For those of you that have been part of today's broadcast, thank you so much. World Cool Kid, JY, Pedri, Spirit of LFC fans, and every single one of you that managed to catch this podcast. Those who like, those who didn't like, thank you so much. I do not take your time for granted. So allow me to wrap it here and wish you a wonderful rest of the evening. We will catch up later in the night should power do return. Thank you so much. Bye-bye for now. Guys, if you're just rejoining the broadcast, I'm signing out. Power is off, and that means so is Wi-Fi. So I have to rely on temporary mobile internet to wrap this conversation up. But thank you so much for being part of this evening's conversation. I was answering the final question that came from Cool Kid, who was asking where I'm coming from, and I said it's Kampala, Uganda. So thank you so much, every single one of you that has been part of this podcast. I wish you the very best. I'll see you guys next time, later tonight, provided we do receive power back. In fact, I would love to retire much earlier because there's a game to watch in the championships that I thought I shouldn't be missing out on. That game is between Congo and South Sudan. Congo and Sudan. While later at 8, it will be Senegal and Nigeria. So I do not want to miss out on those games. And I do hope that power does return just in time. Otherwise, thank you so much. Bye-bye for now. Stay blessed.